Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I posted, but I felt the need to create another video, so here goes. A lot of model train stuff has happened over the past year, so let me give you a quick recap and get you back in the loop. A year ago I planned on doing a series of how I built my OO harbour layout. With the sleepless nights from having 2 young kids, I just lost motivation, and I decided to just work on the layout as a hobby, and I didn't really record anything from a building point of view. The video playing now is footage of the completed layout. This layout actually turned out to be one of my favorite builds that I've ever done, and the end result was great. I made some silly mistakes when connecting the two modules, and it led to less than ideal running, but I'll talk more about this later in the video. After almost a year of detailing, I decided to reorganize my workshop, and the harbour layout was removed from the wall because it didn't really fit in with my new plans. I put it into storage, and the idea was that I was going to use it as a travelling layout at a later stage, maybe to take to exhibitions and swap meets. Unfortunately, things didn't really go to plan, and the layout took some serious water damage while stored under my carport. I did, however, manage to salvage the buildings and a lot of the track work, and I'll showcase these in later videos. Over the past year, I've become really good friends with Hilton from Proper Chuffed. If you haven't seen his channel, you really need to check it out. I'll put a link in the description below. He managed to twist my rubber arm into creating a bigger layout with 2 mainline loops, and this would take up a big chunk of my workshop space. I built the benchwork and laid the track in record time and had my trains up and running within 2 weeks. I spent a few more weeks troubleshooting, installing DCC servos for the points, and running loads of trains. After all of this, I realized that this layout would not work for me in the long run for various reasons outside of my control. Maybe I'll discuss them in a later video, but it's not really relevant for what we're doing at the moment. It took me a day, but I took this layout down and decided to go back to the layout style that I love best, the shelf shunting layout. This new layout will be the subject of its own video series, and I'll release it in the next few months. So now that you're in the loop and you understand what's happened over the past year, let's get stuck into this video series. I needed a subject for a video, so I decided I would document a project that I've wanted to do for some time now. Winter in the workshop is really not great, and I've always wanted a small layout that I could run on the dining room table and easily store when not in use. In this series, I'll showcase my method of layout building, from track laying to designing buildings, painting them, detailing them, and then operating the layout, which is the most fun. I love shunting layouts because they really give you an opportunity to actually operate your locos. Another great feature is that one can really take advantage of DCC sound features during your operations. Your locos run slowly, they don't travel from one side of the layout to the other very fast, and you can really hear those sounds, those specific sounds. But I'm going to cover all of this at a later stage. So I had some spare MDF sitting in storage, and I decided to use it for my benchwork. I built a module that measures 1.8 meters by 490 millimeters. It's not massive, but there's loads of space for shunting operations. I had a bunch of unused points that I've collected over some time, and I got them all out to see what combinations of track could work for my idea. After a bit of trial and error, I decided to get some inspiration from other layouts that I found online. I came across wyman.info, and this is just the most epic site for shunting layout information. I was familiar with John Allen's Switchman's Nightmare from my time modeling US layouts, but this site gave me so much more information about understanding shunting layouts and designing them. If this is the type of thing that interests you, please check this site out. It is well worth it. I'll add a link in the description below. After browsing through the site for a few hours, I chose a layout idea that I really liked, and I made some adjustments to fit my specific operating needs. With a track plan in mind, I placed the points roughly where they would be in their final configuration, and I used some of these Metcalf kits that Hilton from Proper Chuffed gifted me to get an idea of the 3-dimensional space I would be working with later on in this build. The Metcalf kits are superb, and they really have helped me to visualize the buildings that I designed for myself from scratch. I'm still undecided about using them on this particular layout, but it's only because I'm not very good at weathering them, so I think I'm going to stick to my own kits for now. So with the basic configuration decided, it's time to secure the track down. I'm using track pins and a laser cut straight edge for this task. The straight edge also acts as a spacing tool for double tracks, which I'll show you later on in the video. I've done model trains since the age of 5 and as a serious hobby since 17. Over this time, I've come across many opinions about track laying. Some people swear by track bed and others not. I don't feel there is a huge benefit on this particular layout because I'm going to be adding many paved sections over the track. My advice is to go with what works for you and your layout. On my shelf layout, I felt a track bed was necessary because of the style of layout. I'll also be showing this layout in some later videos. With the first piece of flex secure, I'll move on to laying the first point. You can see this point has some battle damage from my previous layout, but it still works great, and with some weathering and scenicking, it will do the job just fine. I'd like the option of adding servos to my points later on, so I need to do the prep work for it now. I mark out the center of the switchblade tie, and that small wire that goes up from the servo needs a bit of room to pivot in this position from side to side, so I'm going to drill a good sized hole below the point. I'm leaving the center springs in because I feel it keeps the mechanism reliable. With the hole drilled out, I test fit the point to make sure that the hole is in the right place. I've learned this lesson the hard way from previous layouts, and it's not an easy task drilling precise holes from the bottom of a layout after track has been laid down. I don't really want to spend too much time on track laying as there's so many resources about this online, and they are presented by people that know far more than I do. I do, however, want to demonstrate how the track spacing tool works that I showed earlier in the video. I start off by putting a piece of flex in the rough position that I want it to be in. I then place the track spacer in the center of both tracks and run it back and forth a few times to align the tracks. This is such a simple tool to make, and I really recommend getting hold of one if you're going to have a lot of parallel tracks on your layout. I continued to lay the rest of the track, and after a few hours I had myself a completed track to work with. Here's a look at the finished product. There are loads of opportunities for interesting operations on this layout. The siding lengths have been limited to a maximum of 3 wagons each. This layout is supposed to be simple to set up and run quickly, so I don't want to complicate it unnecessarily with very long sidings. I've placed a class 8 and some wagons on the layout for a scale reference. If you look carefully, you will see that I made some minor changes to the track plan to allow better operation. As I was laying track down, I found that certain things didn't line up the way that I wanted, so I just adjusted it on the fly. I am a huge fan of building layouts this way. I'm not built for designing things totally on paper and then implementing them exactly as they were designed. I like a bit of freelancing and a bit of sculpting. That's a very fun part of the hobby for me, to see something come to life as you build it. So the last thing that I want to do for this episode is to drill holes for the track feeder wires. I simply start by marking out all the points I'd like to be fed, and I use a 1mm drill bit to drill the holes. I will tackle layout wiring in the next video. It's going to be a DCC layout, so there isn't anything too complicated, but as I say, that's for the next video. And on that note, we've come to the end of this episode on how to build a small shunting layout. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like, subscribe and share. Also hit the notification bell to keep up to date with future releases. I'm really excited about building this layout, and I look forward to making more videos about it. Until next time, go well and keep training.